Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Rani Samuel, clinical psychologist and author, and I've entitled today's discussion, Too Tired to Heal. I am hearing this a lot in my practice, among my friends, among people I deal with, where people are just telling me how emotionally exhausted they are. And my patients would say things to me, please don't ask me to write in a journal. I'm too tired to even do that. That's what a patient who battles with arthritis told me recently. Says, please don't make me write anything. Don't make me record anything. I'm too tired. Another patient who's recently a single parent said to me, I really want to go for a run on a Sunday morning, but after my long week of fetching kids, of getting through a work week, I'm just too tired. So my intention is good and I really want to do it, but I don't have the energy to do it. But that's becoming a spiral in itself because the energy is low. There's no exercise, there's no outdoors, there's simply lying on the couch for the weekend. But a lot of people are feeling too tired to take any steps in healing. And recently, someone going through quite severe grief said to me, I just want to sleep and sleep. I will do what is necessary, but I want to sleep. And I think I want you to realize that this is quite a common reaction at the start of most trauma. So why are people feeling so exhausted and so tired? Just like my patients, and I'm sure you are too, everyone is not just dealing with one single thing. Everyone is facing a multiple trauma. What do I mean by that? I just think of one of my patients. She got called into school because her son was in a fight. At the same time, she has severe work stress, and there's always a threat that this job is going to end. On top of that, she's got health challenges. She has severe migraines, and this won't actually let up. So with the financial stress, the medical condition, and she looks after her parents. So she has this multifaceted trauma going on. So of course, the first instance you get to sleep and do nothing else, you are going to do so. But this fatigue and this tiredness that she is experiencing is now spilling out to all areas of her life. And it's really interesting because she won an award at work recently and she could not delight in it. She could not enjoy it. So it was almost like she was on a mountaintop and then slipped into the valley and she became despairing. So I want you to know that many people experience this absolute highs and lows of not resolving the healing journey and just feeling tired and just willing to rest. And there's nothing wrong with that, but having to take care of your physical needs and resting is just one part of the healing journey. So let me tell you about what happens in hospital in a psychiatric ward when people are under extreme emotional stress. The first thing that we do is we do allow you to rest. Sometimes it is the first 1 or 2 days that you would actually be medicated and you would sleep. Yes, you would get up for your meals and showering, but most of the time you would sleep. It's almost a reset and a reboot of your system. And during this time, we understand that you are struggling. And there's no shame in actually resting and simply hydrating yourself. You're not considered lazy, and you're not considered as someone who has no faith and cannot continue. But being in your pajamas, resting, being alone in your room, the curtains closed, is an essential part of healing. And I often tell my patients, when I know they're burning out, when I see the tiredness settling in, and I would say to them, it's time for hospital at home. So we would create the same conditions for a weekend and allow them to simply rest. And you can do that too, but we guard against it becoming a permanent state of being in this world. A good biblical example of this is the story of Elijah. Elijah was an Old Testament prophet, a very powerful one at that, but he was also very human in his journey. And just like him, all of us have a spiritual journey, but we have a very human journey as well. So despite his power, one of the huge things that the prophet Elijah was known for was that he called down fire from the sky at Mount Carmel in the Bible. I recently went onto AI to see what I would imagine this fire to be like, and AI was quite dramatic. It was this fire spiraling down from the heavens that burnt the offerings that were laid before it. So to do that was something that's quite supernatural. And he had the power to pray that powerful prayer and for this to happen. But what's interesting, when he had this high at Mount Carmel, he was then being pursued by the leaders of that time, and he ran away. He fell into this deep depression. And the story continues that he was lying next to a brook and he asked God to please take his life. Can you see the very humanness of this particular journey? And what was God's response to this? There was no condemnation. There was no shame. It was not saying, look what you have done. You just came from the mountain and you were able to powerfully make a stand, call down fire, allow that. No, none of this was God's response to his emotional reactions, to this pain in his soul that said, I'm so tired. The reaction was sleep, hydrate, rest. And there was supernatural activity that took place in this time. An angel appeared with bread and water. And there's supernatural provision even for you and I when we are at those lows and so extremely tired. But what's really interesting is that when Elijah was refreshed and rejuvenated, God came to him and said, Elijah, what are you doing here? And didn't say it once, but said it twice in the story. What are you doing here? And I think that's a really important question. Once the rest is complete, once the rejuvenation and restoration has happened, you can't stay in that emotional location. It's like, what are you doing there? You have to move on. You need to take the next step in your destiny, and you need to move forward. So I would encourage you, if you are tired, yes, do rest. Do everything to rejuvenate yourself. And when you are, take the next step in your journey of purpose. Thank you for listening. I will see you next time. Bye for now.